Welcome to the Mom Boss Unfiltered, the podcast where unfiltered is queen and BS gets left at the door. I'm your host, Marissa Brennan, mom of three, DIY junkie, sales executive, entrepreneur, project obsessed, husband obsessed, and lover of all things unfiltered, while trying to keep all the balls in the air. Whether you're in sales, building a business, or just here for the laughs, rants, and practical advice, you're in the right place. We talk about wins, face plants, and the honest moments no one wants to talk about. So grab your coffee or your cocktail and let's get unfiltered. And we're back, Mom Boss Bessies out there. I'm trying to stay on my consistent bullshit. New year, new me. Clock it. As the kids say. Yeah, so here we are. I'm back for another one. I think this one's going to be really good, super relevant. But first, can we just address the elephant in the room that January has felt like the longest month ever? Like the fact that it's still January is mind-boggling to me. I feel like this month is never fucking ending. So if you're in the same boat, I feel you. Um, but life is lifing, we're doing all the things. Sports are started, like I talked on the last one. Basements slowly but surely, we're on to the next step. Kids have been sick, all of them. We've kind of gotten a little bit of it too. Um, Broncos lost in the AFC Championship, which was super unfortunate, but it is what it is. There's always next year, so that was a bummer weekend. My middle turned 9, and sleepovers, we're having one, and I hate sleepovers. I actually want to ban them after this one. I don't know why I always say yes when I absolutely despise them, because not just like the sleepover part of it, but your kids are an absolute disaster after a sleepover. Like they're the worst, most feral children the next day, and it's just, again, after this year, maybe I'll do better and say no. But besides that, we're moving along. Business is growing. I'm developing that app that I talked about and getting more people testing it. So we're in. And then the sales job is off and running. Like it's just all crazy. My voice, like I can hear it starting to go out. But this episode, I heard a couple like little snippets on TikTok that really resonated with me, and I kind of wanted to dive in a little bit more on this podcast. But it's all kind of about auditing your life. And I've been thinking a lot about that, like what that means, where I need to do that in my life, why it's such a foreign concept to think about doing that in your life. And I really feel like you feel like you need to audit your life when something's falling apart or not going right, but in my case, everything's fine. Like nothing's falling apart. And so this is not because something's wrong. There's anything wrong. But realizing that if something looks good on paper, like looks really really good on paper, and you can still feel a little bit off in your body, right? And usually when that happens, it's because you've kind of fallen out of alignment with whatever that is. And we have no problem auditing our businesses, auditing our finances, auditing systems that we have in life. But a lot of people just forget about truly auditing their life and putting that out there. And they just instead fill that void with busyness and hopefully hoping that clarity finds them. And oftentimes it doesn't. You just get to that burnout phase, which I talked about before. And here's what I've realized. When you don't audit your life on a regular, consistent basis, you start operating from a place of insecurity almost, and instead of confidence, right? Because something just feels off. Something's not sitting right. And this is kind of where I want to talk about competition for a second. I have found I love watching people and I love analyzing people, and I just see things, I like to sit and observe, right? Um I realize insecure people are truly obsessed with competing with other people. they're hear me out, they're watching, they're comparing, they're trying to keep up, they're trying to one up, trying to diminish that other person and whatever they're doing. And they're always, always worried that someone is coming for their spot. That's where they operate out of. Whereas a high value person honestly doesn't even know the competition exists, if we're being frank. And when you're confident, you realize that your spot isn't necessarily up for grabs ever. And let me say that again, like your spot is not up for grabs when you're coming and operating from a confident space. There is no competition when you are rooted in who you are and you know who you are deep within your soul. Because at that point, there's room for everybody. There's space for different styles, space for different personalities, businesses, voices, moms, leaders, innovators, you name it. There's just space. Whereas if you feel threatened by someone else's success, that's usually your sign you need to kind of check yourself and audit your own alignment because it's not good. And let me just say, like, a life audit isn't judgment, right? It's not rooted in judging, it's rooted in awareness. And it's truly sitting down and asking yourself the hard questions. Where am I operating from fear instead of confidence or abundance? Where am I reacting instead of choosing or being proactive? Where am I choosing to stay small rather than staying comfortable? Because when you actually audit your life, you start seeing these patterns show up time and time again. And then you start realizing the times you've overcommitted, the times you've overexplained, the times you've overgave, the times you couldn't say no, the situations you tolerated that maybe you shouldn't have. Not because you're a weak person, that's not where I'm coming from on this, but because internally you were trying to prove somebody or maybe trying to keep the peace or avoid discomfort or be everything to everyone all the time. Hi, that's me, guilty. But auditing your life shows kind of where you abandon yourself and what moment you abandon yourself. That's a hard truth pill to swallow, if we're being honest. But it also can be insanely powerful. So, where I think you should start and where I started was doing an energy audit, right? Simple enough, sounds simple. And I'm not talking about your schedule, I'm talking about your energy, right? Asking yourself what drains you, what lights you up, what fills your cup, where do you feel heavy? And if your calendar looks super full, but your tank feels super empty, something's misaligned, something's off in that sense. Because being busy doesn't necessarily mean you're aligned, and that's something super important to identify. I also root that back to like productivity over busyness, right? Like just because you feel productive or just because you feel, sorry, busy doesn't necessarily mean you're productive. You may just be filling time with voids because you don't want to actually do the hard work, the challenging stuff. So busy doesn't equate to good necessarily. And you can feel that in your calendar. Like, yeah, if you have every hour stacked on top of each other and there's something filling every single hour, is it really all productive? And I have to look at that also from a sales perspective. Uh, are the things that I'm spending my time on directly equating to a good ROI, return on investment? If not, is that really where my time is worth being spent? Right? So we're always, I know for me, I'm always looking at my calendar. I'm always analyzing it and I'm always trying to omit the busy work and create space for the productivity. And even if that means pouring into my own cup, like I need to go get my hair done next week. You can see the grays if you're watching the video, probably speckling from the camera. That is important. That fills my cup and that's something I prioritize in my calendar. It's not a bad thing. Then you also need to, once you kind of audited your energy, you need to audit your relationships. Who are you letting have access to you? Who are the people in your life that support your growth? Who just sits there and tolerates you or tolerates your growth or your success? Because when you start to kind of peel that back, you realize not everyone deserves the same level of proximity in every season of your life. Because real growth requires setting boundaries, and boundaries make insecure people uncomfortable. And so that will start to weed people out once you identify who's taking advantage of your time, who's putting forth superficial relationships. And they might have been an important relationship at some point in your life, but maybe you've grown out of that season, and that's okay. Like I've done that with friends time and time again. It's just seasons, it's seasonal shifts that you have to be aware of and audit, and that's all okay. And those people will show their true colors very quickly. I promise you that. And then you audit your work if that's a part of your life. Like I said, you have to see the things that really move the needle. Or what are the things that you're just doing out of habit because you've always done them, so you're always going to do them? Maybe that's not the case. Maybe you need a shift in that space. And what things are you tolerating that cost you more than money? So thinking emotional, thinking headspace, thinking time, thinking all those things. Revenue matters for sure. That's a huge, huge thing. But resentment is expensive and that can grow over time if you don't audit the things that are causing the resentment. I've been there multiple times within my career, and it can implode in your brain really fast and take up way too much space, and that's not okay. And I told myself 2026 is the year that I just say, "No, like you're not taking up any headspace anymore. Like you don't deserve my time, you don't deserve my energy, you don't deserve my space. Therefore, out. I don't need you. You're not directly contributing to my revenue and you're actually causing me a lot of resentment built up in my body and I'm not here for it." So, um if you're constantly burned out, overwhelmed or frustrated, it's really time to audit your systems in your workplace, okay? Then this big one is this one that I'm talking about next is the big one. And this is your identity audit. I know that sounds big and it is. Don't let it fool you. Who you Who are you being because it's expected? You need to ask yourself that. Are you showing up in this workspace because it's expected of you? Are you saying yes to all these things because you think it's expected of you, or are they things you actually want to do? What version of you are you clinging to? Is it a past version that no longer serves you? Is it you're just trying to play small in a big room? Like, what version are you holding on to? And then what do you need to release in order to level up? Because growth sometimes requires grieving who you used to be. And that's a big deal. That's a big thing and that's a big identity shift to come to terms with. Do you need to let go of the mom you were in order to be the best mom you can be? Do you need to let go of the employee that you were in order to grow as the best employee? Do you need to go let go of the friend that you were because it's no longer serving you? And maybe being friends with that person is no longer serving you. Do you need to let go of the version of you that played small and didn't speak up in order to get to a point where you're okay making waves because that's who you truly are? Why quiet yourself if that's who you are truly rooted in? Just so you don't offend anybody? No, that's it's not the way to go. Auditing your life forces you to meet that next version of yourself, and you're gonna love that version of yourself. At least that's how it's always worked out for me. I would bet a lot of money that you're gonna love that next version of yourself. And then finally, joy. You need to audit the joy in your life because that brings alignment. When do you feel the most like you? In what situations? What are you doing? Who are you with? What do you want more of this year as far as joy goes? And what things did you think brought you joy, but now maybe are just feeling more forced? And that's back to that idea that if it looks good on paper but feels heavy in your body, then it's a no. Let it go. It's no longer serving you and it's no longer bringing you joy. And like this is kind of where it comes full circle. When you're aligned, you don't compete, you don't compare, you don't over explain, and you don't chase validation. Instead, you build, you protect your peace, you move with intention, because confident people don't fight for seats at the table and they don't stay where they're not wanted at the table. They'll build their own fucking table. So I always like to leave you with a takeaway at the Mom Boss Unfiltered. So here's your assignment. I want you to write down 3 things that drain you, 3 things that light you up, and 1 thing you've been avoiding auditing because you probably already know that it's no longer serving you, if we're being honest. Because you don't need a breakdown to justify a breakthrough, okay? Audit your life before it audits you the fuck to a mental hospital or a binging night out or whatever that looks like, which sometimes we need that, but beat your life to it so it doesn't run you into the ground, honestly. And what's the Mom Boss Unfiltered without just a little chit chat, other than beyond the earth shattering, life changing advice that I am so unqualified to give you guys, but I do anyway. Yes, if you're watching on video, I look different. I changed because I'm recording this part the next day because such is life in a mom boss world. You only get a certain amount of time to knock out this kind of stuff, and I maxed out my time yesterday. So here we are the next day doing it. And I feel like I've already lived a whole last day. I took my oldest this morning to an amazing organization, and I'm always into, sorry, I'm lowering, um giving back and just showing the kids how good they have it really is what it comes down to. I there's this nonprofit called Food for Thought, and in Denver there's a lot of schools, Title I schools, what they call it, that some of these kids don't get fed on the weekends. Like their only source of food comes from school. So Food for Thought, you can volunteer to go pack bags that these children can then leave with for the weekend, and it's a good amount of food for them to eat, and they take it on Fridays. And so took her with to just kind of, humble her a little bit and have her see the importance of giving back and be grateful for the life that she lives, all those things. So we had to be down there super, super early by 7 a.m. And that was an early morning for both of us. So here we are. And then this weekend, you just, off to the races again. Birthday party, sports, all the things in our lives. So, yeah, I wanted to talk. So I don't know if you follow me on TikTok, great. If you don't, I put up a post recently about, is that what you even call it on TikTok? I don't even know. A real video about if your mom or mother-in-law watches your children for you, do they expect you to have dinner ready for them, or do they just kind of figure it out themselves? And I will say I should have put if they're at your house, they're watching your children at your house. In our situation, sometimes it's just easier to watch our kids at our house because all their stuff is here, everything's here for them. So it oftentimes happens that way. But I don't know if it's because we're a restaurant family or what have you, but mm, I've just never gotten the question before, like, hey, well, what are you going to have for us to eat? We need to eat as well. And I was just kind of taken aback by that question. And it's not really that big a deal. Like, I'm happy to feed people and provide food. I think it was just the way the question was posed to me. It was just kind of like, well, you're an adult. I'm sure you can figure it out. But yes, I will have something prepared and figured out and ready, or I'll just order pizza, one of the two. So yeah, just curious what you all think about that, how your family dynamic is in that situation. Inquiring minds want to know. For just one of my friends wants to know, not me. Yeah, anyways, there's that. So that was on TikTok, so go comment on that or put your comments on this podcast if that works as well. Yeah, life is just crazy right now. Like we're just really trying to I sat through this networking event and the lady, she has taken a bunch of business coaching. And so she helps kind of people like formulate their thoughts. Not that she's a business coach per se, but just kind of like spreads the knowledge that she's received from her business coaches. And it's one of the things she said today was you should always be paying yourself first. And I can tell you in the 4 years that we have been running ASL dumpsters, we have not paid ourselves. But any money we could have paid ourselves, we put back into the business and we just pay off for things. So is that the same thing? I guess I should have stuck around and like asked, is that still okay? Is that considered paying yourself, right? Because you're just paying it back to the business. But then she also like had us do this really cool worksheet, which I may do a podcast episode on it a little as I dive into it a little more. I didn't fill out the worksheet while we were in that networking event, just because it was pretty deep, thought provoking questions, and I just didn't have the capacity or time to sit down and do that. But it might be make for a good podcast episode to kind of identify that. But ultimately, it's all around manifesting, right? Like speaking your goals into existence, speaking your wants into existence, whether they're short term, midterm, or long term. And so it was just, yeah, it was interesting, like what popped into my head first. And some of this was faith based, which I'm not the most faith based person in the world. Like I grew up Catholic, I go to church. But I could be more rooted in it, if we're being honest. Like we just don't make it a priority, and we probably should. And we actually have talked about it multiple times that we need to make that a priority. But sports always happens on Sundays, so it's never easy to just go to church. Like I wish it were that easy. But it was interesting just how she kind of led with that too, how she kind of tied it in. So I'm gonna dive into the workbook a little bit more, and then I may do a podcast episode on that to see like what comes out of it for me. Because yeah, I like to pay ourselves out of the dumpsters. I'd like my app to go big. I mean, I think this app is huge and it's a huge need and it's a great solution to a problem that everybody faces in the elementary and early education. If you have a kid going through that, um, I'm just trying to figure out the pricing and who makes the choice, like how I can get someone to make that decision for me, like to bring us into their school or their daycare or what have you. So I'm still working through that in my brain and trying to figure out the avenues I'm going to take on that. Um, it's kind of complicated and I'm not going to let myself quit on it. There have been roadblocks and I've been like, is this worth it? I'm doing this like outside of business hours, kind of infiltrating into time with my family. Do I believe in it? Yes. But do I just quit from here? And I keep coming back to no. I think this is a really powerful thing. It could be super powerful and a lot of people could benefit from it. We just got to figure out the logistics. I just wish my brain worked like that. And it's just hard. It's just a harder thing for me, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, we're gonna work through that. But yeah, the business goals, that worksheet kind of just opened my eyes to that, the dumpsters, my sales business, all those things, like where I want to go, where I am, how I see myself getting to where I want to get to, the long term. Like I said, like I want to take my family to Italy in 2.5 years and I want to spend 3 weeks there. So what I need to do to get to that point. I would love a tummy tuck. How to get that money to do there to do that. How to engage with my clients better on a more meaningful platform, on a more meaningful cadence. So yeah, it was very thought provoking. So stay tuned. I might do a podcast episode on that. But other than that, you guys, I have to just say happy last couple days of January. Moving on to the next one. I also am loving Tell Me Lies. If you guys have not gotten into that show, so good. So good. I almost did the clock it like my kids do. Stop me next time. Such a good show. I hate that I have to wait till Monday for it to release the next episode, but it's fine. Super raunchy. So if you're not into that, maybe don't watch it. Super toxic, but it's really good. That's kind of the only show we're watching right now. And also, I have had like a squirrel brain. You guys are getting a glimpse into what my brain sounds like and feels like every day. I've had my Aura ring for now a month. I got it for Christmas, so I've had it now for a month. You guys, it's like making me not want to drink at all because my, is it HRT? I think HRV or HRT, I can't remember. Tanks. Like it's bad after a night of drinking and it makes me feel so guilty and bad. And it makes you realize like how actually bad drinking is for you. But we like to have a good time. So it is what it is. And it's not like I'm a habitual drinker. Like I maybe drink once, twice a month at the most. But the nights that I do, it's all wonky. It's all off. My sleep is shit. So it's really making me like, I don't know, rethink that whole thing. And I'm not a, I don't know. I like to party now and again, but it's getting less and less as I get older, which we know we all love. But yeah, if you don't want to feel guilty about your partying ways, don't get an aura ring because it definitely makes you feel a little bit not good about yourself. But that's it's fine. It's fine. We're gonna move past it. We'll go to therapy for that. How to remove that extra guilt in my life because of my aura ring. Okay. Anyways, well, I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful couple weeks. The next time I publish podcast, we'll check in. But thanks for being here. Share this, like it, comment, DM, all the things. Let me know how I can help you, be there for you, be a sounding board for you. I want to build that community. 2026 is the year of community, so let's make this one. Thanks for being here. Love you. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Mom Boss Unfiltered. I want you to know that I don't take it lightly that you're here listening, sharing space with me in the middle of your busy, beautiful, messy life. Whether you're here for the laughs, the real talk, some practical advice, or just a moment to not feel so alone, I am so glad you chose my little corner of the internet. Until next time, my friends, take care of yourself, stay honest, stay real, and most importantly, stay unfiltered.